Imagine enduring 27 years in a tiny, barren concrete cell, stripped of your name and reduced to a mere number, only to emerge not with a thirst for vengeance, but with a radical, unprecedented vision to unite a deeply fractured and bleeding nation. This is the extraordinary reality of a man who transformed the darkest chapters of human oppression into a global beacon of hope, forgiveness, and unyielding dignity. He did not merely survive the brutal machinery of apartheid, he dismantled it from the inside out, using patience, strategic brilliance, and an almost superhuman capacity for empathy. His journey from a rural village boy to the first democratically elected president of South Africa is the ultimate masterclass in moral leadership, proving that true power lies not in the ability to destroy one's enemies, but in the profound courage to transform them into partners for a shared future. The genesis of this monumental legacy began in the summer of 1918 in the small, rural village of Mvezo in the Eastern Cape of South Africa. Born Rolihlahla, a name loosely translating to troublemaker, he was a member of the Thembu royal family. Following the early death of his father, he was placed under the guardianship of the Thembu regent, Jongintaba Dalindyebo. This upbringing immersed him in the rich oral traditions, complex tribal politics, and a deep sense of communal responsibility that would forever shape his worldview. He was the first in his family to receive a formal Western education, attending the prestigious Clarkberry Boarding Institute and later Healdtown, before enrolling at the University of Fort Hare. It was here that his political consciousness began to awaken, as he encountered the stark realities of racial segregation and the systemic disenfranchisement of the black majority. His expulsion from the university for participating in a student protest was a pivotal moment, forcing him to flee to Johannesburg to avoid an arranged marriage, a decision that would inadvertently place him at the epicenter of the anti-apartheid struggle. Arriving in the bustling, segregated metropolis of Johannesburg in the early 1940s, he experienced the harsh realities of urban black life firsthand. He found employment as a clerk at a law firm, where he met Walter Sisulu, a seasoned political activist, who would become his lifelong mentor and closest confidant. Recognizing his immense potential, Sisulu arranged for him to study law at the University of the Witwatersrand, making him one of the few black students at the predominantly white institution. During this period, he co-founded the African National Congress Youth League, an organization designed to inject radical, mass-action energy into the older, more conservative ANC leadership. He believed that polite petitions and passive resistance were entirely insufficient against the entrenched, institutionalized racism of the apartheid regime. His charismatic leadership and powerful oratory skills quickly propelled him to the forefront of the movement, establishing him as a formidable voice demanding equal rights and universal suffrage. The political landscape shifted dramatically in the 1950s, marked by escalating state violence and the systematic dismantling of any peaceful opposition. He played a central role in the Defiance Campaign of 1952, a massive, coordinated effort of civil disobedience that resulted in his first arrest and a suspended sentence. This was followed by the grueling treason trial, which began in 1956 and dragged on for 4 years, ultimately ending in the acquittal of all defendants due to a lack of evidence. However, the defining turning point occurred in 1960 with the Sharperville massacre, where police opened fire on peaceful protesters, killing dozens of unarmed men, women, and children. In the aftermath, the government banned the ANC and other liberation movements, forcing them underground. Realizing that non-violent resistance was no longer viable against a regime willing to murder its own citizens, he made the agonizing but necessary decision to co-found Umkhonto we Sizwe, the armed wing of the ANC. He underwent military training abroad and began orchestrating a campaign of strategic sabotage against government infrastructure, carefully avoiding loss of life, while sending a clear message that the oppressed would no longer submit to tyranny without a fight. This clandestine resistance was short-lived. In August 1962, he was arrested and subsequently charged with inciting strikes and leaving the country without a passport. While serving his initial sentence, police raided an ANC hideout in Rivonia, uncovering documents that directly linked him to the planning of armed sabotage. He was brought back to court to face charges of high treason and sabotage, offences that carried the death penalty. The ensuing Rivonia trial became a global spectacle and a defining moment in modern history. Standing in the dock, he delivered a profound, meticulously crafted statement, declaring his absolute readiness to sacrifice his life for the ideal of a democratic and free society in which all persons would live together in harmony and with equal opportunities. The international community watched in breathless anticipation, but the apartheid regime, perhaps fearing the martyrdom a death sentence would create, sentenced him to life imprisonment instead. Thus began the long, grueling walk that would consume nearly 3 decades of his life. He was sent to the notorious maximum security prison on Robben Island, a desolate rock off the coast of Cape Town. For 18 years, he was confined to a tiny, damp cell, subjected to hard labor in a lime quarry that permanently damaged his eyesight, and allowed only 1 visitor and 1 letter every 6 months. The prison authorities attempted to break his spirit by stripping him of his identity, referring to him only by his prisoner number. Yet, they fundamentally underestimated his psychological resilience. He transformed the prison into a university of resistance, organizing secret study groups, debating political strategy with his fellow inmates, and maintaining strict discipline and morale. He also quietly began to build bridges with his white warders, learning their language and understanding their fears, planting the earliest seeds of the reconciliation that would later define his presidency. His unwavering dignity turned him into a powerful, mythical symbol of the anti-apartheid movement, galvanizing a global boycott and sanctions campaign against the South African government. By the late 1980s, the geopolitical landscape had shifted, and the apartheid regime was buckling under the weight of internal unrest, economic stagnation, and relentless international pressure. Recognizing that a military victory was impossible, and that the country was hurtling toward a catastrophic racial civil war, the government initiated tentative, highly secretive contacts with him. While still imprisoned, first at Pollsmoor Prison and later at Victor Verster Prison, he engaged in clandestine negotiations with high-ranking government officials. He demonstrated extraordinary political acumen, refusing to renounce violence unless the government renounced it first, and insisting on the unconditional release of all political prisoners. These behind-the-scenes talks laid the crucial groundwork for a peaceful transition of power, proving that he was not merely a symbolic figurehead, but a master strategist capable of outmaneuvering his adversaries at their own game. On February 11, 1990, after 27 years of incarceration, he walked out of the prison gates a free man, greeted by a euphoric, global television audience. The world expected a bitter, vengeful leader, but instead, they witnessed a statesman who immediately called for peace and reconciliation. However, the path to democracy was fraught with extreme peril. The country was engulfed in severe political violence, primarily orchestrated by hardline factions within the security forces, and rival political groups attempting to derail the negotiations. He navigated this terrifying precipice with remarkable calm, engaging in intense, often deadlocked negotiations with President F.W. de Klerk. Despite profound mutual distrust and several near collapses of the peace process, his commitment to a unified, democratic South Africa never wavered. His efforts, alongside de Klerk, were recognized with the Nobel Peace Prize in 1993, a testament to their shared ability to pull a nation back from the abyss. In April 1994, South Africa held its first fully democratic, multiracial elections. Millions of citizens waited in extraordinarily long lines for hours, even days, to cast their ballots, culminating in his landslide victory. At the age of 75, he was inaugurated as the first black president of South Africa, a moment that sent waves of hope across the globe. His presidency was defined by a relentless, almost radical commitment to national healing. He established the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, chaired by Archbishop Desmond Tutu, to investigate human rights violations committed under apartheid, prioritizing restorative justice over retributive vengeance. In a masterful stroke of political symbolism, he embraced the national rugby team, the Springboks, a symbol previously despised by the black majority, and wore their jersey during the 1995 Rugby World Cup final. This singular act of profound grace helped to unite a deeply divided nation and demonstrated his unparalleled understanding of the healing power of symbolic leadership. Perhaps his most revolutionary act as president was his decision to serve only a single term. In a continent where leaders frequently clung to power indefinitely, he voluntarily stepped down in 1999, ensuring the peaceful consolidation of democratic institutions and setting a powerful precedent for democratic succession. In his retirement, he did not fade into obscurity. He founded the Elders, an independent group of global leaders working together for peace and human rights, and continued his tireless advocacy for education, HIV and AIDS awareness, and poverty alleviation through the Nelson Mandela Foundation. He remained a moral compass for the world, speaking out against injustice wherever it occurred, always guided by the same principles of human dignity and equality that had sustained him in his darkest hours. The legacy of this extraordinary statesman extends far beyond the borders of South Africa. He proved that forgiveness is not a sign of weakness, but the ultimate expression of political and moral strength. He demonstrated that a leader's true measure is not found in the accumulation of power, but in the empowerment of others and the ability to heal historical wounds. From the dusty plains of the Eastern Cape to the highest office in the land, and finally to his quiet passing in the winter of 2013, his life remains a profound testament to the indomitable human spirit. He did not just dismantle a system of institutionalized hatred, he built a blueprint for peace, leaving behind a legacy of reconciliation that will continue to inspire and guide humanity for generations to come.